Welcome back to our three-part Q&A series. In this episode, we're going to ask, what does it mean to be a man? And what do we mean when we say queer man? Tim, are you ready to go all in?
I'm ready.
Let's go. How do you define what it means to be a man? And how has that changed for you over time?
It's interesting because it's such a simple question. And I suspect if we asked every man we could find, we would get a slightly different answer. But now, having been in the men's workspace and in healing spaces and yoga spaces and shamanic spaces, I think being a man is an unapologetic lived engagement in my life as the person I am fully, which is interesting because I feel like that definition would be true for all humans. We just have to recognize that to be a man or perceived as a man and to be a woman or perceived as a woman, there are external factors that sort of influence us. And so, can I be a man? Can I embody this physical vessel and allow myself to experience all the things that I'm capable of and that are natural to me? And can I do it skillfully? I think the question is really a human question, and then we start to recognize the pressures or expectations that are placed on people that are perceived to be or identify as men versus those that are perceived to be or identified as women.
Understood. So if someone is questioning about, like, should I be listening to your podcast or should I be coming to your circles? Like, how would I know if I identify as a man?
Yeah,
How
I
would you-
mean, they have to tell us, right? So the when I first got into men's work, the rule was always the only criteria to be in a men's group is to be a man. And I have changed that for, the queer community that I've been mainly serving, and to say, well, the only criteria to be in a men's group is to be or identify as a man in whole or in part and have an interest in working on that part. So, for example, I have many non-binary friends. You are welcome in the men's groups that we have if you want to work on that male or masculine aspect of you. That to me feels like if that's a thing you want to explore and work on and it's a part of you, then you are welcome in my space. Now, I don't know that that's I can't speak for all men's spaces. That's true for my space. If you want to work on that part of you, then come. I have, I think, a pretty robust feminine part of me too, but I do not think that I am qualified yet to lead that space if there was a group that wanted to do the same thing for the feminine, right? I would go to someone else's group if I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
So if we're expanding the definition, right, that this is beyond sex and gender.
I don't believe, and listen, I lived in New York City for 25 years. I've lived in Provincetown for 3.5 years. If someone says they're a man, then they're a man. And if they want to work on that part of themselves in this way, then they are absolutely welcome to do that. It's a little bit, it's kind of crazy. I don't want to get into like a conversation about trans people, but this idea of like, well, I never think someone's less of a woman when they have a hysterectomy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that feels arbitrary to me. You're like, so I don't care. I don't care about anything except, is there a part of you that is a man that wants to work on that?
That it's very open, very welcoming, and very accepting. So I think that's really beautiful. And so we reference queerness in your definition there. And so I'm curious now, what do you think about the word queer and what is a queer man?
Well, I love the word queer, and I know some people don't love the word queer, but I like it because I think it is really open. And I like to refer to myself as a queer person because I want every other person in our LGBTQIA2S plus community to know that they are safe with me. I think that queer people and queer men or gay men have a different, or typically have a different relationship with the cultural idea of masculinity and therefore they go through a slightly different process. So I remember when I first entered into men's workspaces, which was deeply populated by straight white men. And I remember thinking, oh, there seems to be this shift where the question is for many of these men, am I man enough? But I have found with queer people, the question is a little bit more like, we still have am I man enough? If you identify as a man, am I man enough? But also, am I a man? Or is this aspect of me, does that disqualify me somehow? And that comes from a lot of like messaging. I certainly heard it. Questioning like, oh, if you like this, or if you're good at this, or if you want to do this, well then that makes you a woman because only women should want to do that. And so I think that process means that we've had to kind of wrestle with it differently.
Mm. So is it fair to say that a queer man is anyone that deviates from the societal norm of what a man is?
Yeah, I'm feeling nervous about like locking myself down into a definition, but I think yes, because I think queerness doesn't necessarily have to do with any particular sexual desire necessarily. So yeah, I think yeah, I'm gonna go with that for now. It's a deviation from this sort of that sort of very binary idea of men and women, and it should be this and should be this. Like there's the blue column and the pink column like that. I think queerness is like, oh, I'm not quite that. I'm like a fuchsia.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
oh, I'm a fuchsia.
I'm an indigo.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think
You get what I'm saying, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of nuance there. So I think it's just helpful to give a little bit of
Yeah.
of context there. And it's an evolving conversation. So I mean, this is something that we could revisit. That's why I started the question of like, and how has that changed over time? Because it may be our learned lived experience and awareness and understanding of it now. And that could be very different in a year, 2 years, 5 years. So,
Well, I mean, it's changed over time for me because the reason I went into men's work in the first place was because, it was pandemic, but it was because, oh, I feel unsafe around men and I wanted to start to work with that. Is it serving me to continually feel unsafe around straight men? So that's why I went into that program. And in so doing, I have created unbelievable connections with a lot of straight men who were not showing up in the same way that some of the men who gave me very, very clear reason to be afraid of them. These men were showing up differently, and then I thought, oh, there's a lot of value here, and a lot of value in a relationship with another man that is without agenda. So we say in men's work all the time, or my teacher says in men's work, Amir Khaliki says all the time, this man across from you that wants nothing from you. I've added to that a little bit. And the way I say it is like, this man wants nothing from you but your fullness. Meaning like, I don't need money from you. I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't desire you. I don't need anything. All I want from you or for you is that you are your fullest self. And I'm wanting that for me too. And that's really beautiful. And I have felt supported and buttressed in ways that I would never want to give up. It's restored my faith in straight men, but more than that, in humanity. And I think it required me doing some work around my fear, my justifiable fear. There was nothing wrong about my fear because you gave me reason to be afraid. But I thought, how long do I want to be afraid? Is this fear serving me? And so that's why I stepped into it.
and in those spaces, what have you found that queer men have to offer that may be unique in men's workspaces?
So in men's work, thank you for that question. In men's workspaces, we often talk about masculine, feminine, this sort of polarity of like energy. I like to think of it as yin and yang, sun and moon, alpha, omega, like all these sort of, things. And I think that queer men, for any number of reasons, tend to be more adept at ebbing and flowing between these energies. So I think that, and David Data talks about this in his book, Way of the Superior Man, where, the large majority of men are going to be masculine identified beings, and the large, percentage of women. And then there's like these neutrally energized people. So anyway, all that is to say, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a men's workspace and this guy is talking about a conflict that he's having with his girlfriend. And he's so confused about it. I don't understand why she is doing this or not doing this or whatever the thing was. And, all the other guys are like nodding. And I remember being like the queer person there. And I'm like, I think I totally understand why she's doing that. And part of it feeling like I think maybe I'm tapping into my ability to feel her experience in a way that you can't. And I do remember one time, I actually, this sort of funny story where I reflected that back and I had the whole Zoom room sort of just stare at me. They were like, I feel like they stared at me in the same way they would stare at their girlfriend or wife to be like, I can't compute. I'm like, she's not responding to this circumstance. She's responding to a pattern. She's upset about the pattern. She doesn't care about the socks or the dishes. She's upset about the pattern that represents. And they were like, so I'm like, I think there's opportunity and camaraderie there. And, I think it takes a little bit of time, but the ability for queer men, I think we just are naturally more capable or like culturally more allowed to feel and experience those parts of ourselves.
Is there anything else on this topic of being a man or masculinity or queer man that you would like to say?
I would just like to say that, these cultural ideas of what it means to be a man, right now we still sort of live in this idea of like the strong man, the Marlboro man, But if we look back through history, what it meant to be a man and the idea of the ideal man has evolved. Our founding fathers wore wigs and high heel shoes. I just want to invite people into when you are looking for your most authentic expression, be mindful when you feel really attached to a moment in time. Pink and blue that I think I referenced earlier, they were swapped at one time. Some of this stuff is arbitrary, right? And so when in men's work, we're looking for authenticity. We're looking for, authentic expression and truth and honesty. And these things that we live through, like they may feel like they're true for our whole lifetime. They might be true for our whole lifetime. That doesn't mean that they're true. They'll always be true or they've always been true. And once we start to think about that, you're like, oh, okay, well, some people that I revere and think of very strong men, George Washington crossing the Delaware in the depth of winter, like that feels intense, right? Like he might have been wearing a wig and high heels. And we start to broaden our idea of, I don't know, he was on a boat. Maybe he wasn't wearing high heels. I don't know. But, we just start to recognize like lots of these things change. Why? So if you're being really rigid, maybe question the rigidity.
Yeah. It's a good opportunity to say it's not so black and white.
I do not know what shoes he was wearing on that boat.
Nor
do I know his head. I knew he had like a triangular hat.
In the painting, right? Then that's the thing. It's a moment in time. It's capturing a moment in time through somebody else's perspective. We were not there. So
we were not there. But the whole point being that our founding fathers presented in a very different way than the men we think of today. And so, maybe the idea of what it means to be a man or a woman or a human or a father or a son or a lover or whatever is an ongoing sort of slowly evolving thing. And when we have that awareness, then maybe we don't have to be so stuck or hold other people to the same sort of stuckness.
And so if you are listening and you're wanting to explore some of this rigidness that you've experienced in your life, or you're wanting to explore other topics, head on over to myembodiment.com. We have weekly journal prompts. We have forums where we can discuss these things in spaces that we can hold each other and hold our experiences and witness each other. So check it out, and we'll see you on the next one.